So you want a tattoo, or maybe you're thinking about getting one, but you're not 100% sure yet. Well, you've come to the right place. Nothing says self-expression like permanently branding yourself. Stage 1. Stage 1 is where everyone starts out, where one day you think to yourself, yeah, I think I'd like a tattoo one day, followed by several months or years of not really thinking too much more about it. But the thought has been placed in your head, and no matter what happens, it'll always be there, lurking in the deep subconscious parts of your mind. Now for some people, this is as far as it gets, not anything more than just a thought. But for others, one day you wake up and find yourself in stage 2. Stage 2 is when you start to actually plan. You start thinking about designs, how big it'll be, where you'd get on your body, and so on. Maybe you were talking with someone about the tattoos they have. Or maybe you woke up one morning after dreaming about getting a mustache tattooed on your finger and thought about how awesome and unique you would be if you had one. Whatever it may be, you're now thinking you're actually going to do this. Now, there's a few things to keep in mind when thinking about what tattoo you're going to get. The design, the location of your body, and any future tattoos you want to get. Firstly, the design. Now, what tattoo you get is ultimately up to you, obviously. It also, despite what some people will say, definitely does not need to have a deeper meaning. It's absolutely okay to get something just because you like the look of it. However, there are some concepts which I strongly recommend keeping in mind when thinking about the design. While they aren't 100% necessary, they do help to make sure that you're happy long term with whatever you choose to get. One sign of a bad tattoo is that it's hard to tell what it is right away, or even worse, has to be explained in order to understand it. This is a big no-no, but thankfully, is easily avoidable. When choosing your tattoo, make sure it's something that, when seen, is easily recognizable, even when you only see it at a glance. If you can tell what it is the instant that you look at it, then it'll be a much better tattoo. Of course, not all of the details have to follow this, but at least the main idea of the design should. Like the tattoo on this person's arm, which at first glance looks like, well, not a human. This is also a good way to make sure it will age properly. If you have trouble telling what it is a week after you get it, then it'll only be exponentially worse several years later. A great way to follow this rule is by having good outlines, as even after the ink fades over time, you can still clearly see the design. The exact opposite of this is something like a watercolor tattoo, which, while it looks awesome in the moment, can easily fade to a point where you can barely tell what it is anymore. Now, in terms of where on your body to get it, this one is much more open. Keep in mind that different areas are going to hurt more or less, with the sternum, feet, hands, and inner elbows being among the most painful. But the pain will only last as long as your tattoo session, unlike the tattoo itself, which will last, well, as long as you do. That's why it's important to think ahead of time about where you want it. If you can't show tattoos at work, then you'll either need to get it somewhere hidden on your body, or somewhere that you can easily cover it up with sleeves, long pants, etc. If you're planning on getting more tattoos in the future, then try to keep that in mind when getting this one. If you want a full Japanese style sleeve for your next piece, for example, and you get Doodle Bob from SpongeBob right in the middle of your arm, it might be hard to work that in. Out of curiosity, I asked ChatGPT to do exactly that to see what it would come up with, and the design was actually kind of amazing. But it's still probably best to avoid if possible. Now, you can never be 100% sure that you'll like the tattoo you get for the rest of your life, but there are things you can do to increase the chances. For my first tattoo, one of the best decisions I made was to print out a picture of the design I wanted and hang it on the wall in my bedroom. I put it on the wall across from my door, so it was in a very visible place where I would see it every day. I wanted to leave it there for 6 months to see if I would, after such a long time, be sick of it or not. If after 6 months I didn't really want to see it anymore, then it'd be a good sign that I didn't want to see it on my body 6 months later, or even years later. For me, this worked out really well, as years later I still don't have any regrets about my tattoos. Of course, a lot of the time, you won't know 100% what you're getting until your artist finishes the design, but you can still do this with the general concept that you want. And that brings us on to stage 3. At this point, you have a design in mind, you have an idea of how big it will be, and where in your body that you're going to get it. All that's left is to find an artist and set up the appointment. This is the stage where you might be having a conversation with someone, only for them to say something like, well, I don't think I could ever get one myself. You wouldn't put a bumper sticker on a Bentley after all, even though they themselves do not usually look like someone you would compare to a Bentley. Now, looking for an artist is one of the most important parts of the process. This is not the time where it's a good idea to start looking to save money by going with a cheaper option. You really do get what you pay for. You don't need to fly across the country to some famous tattoo artist and pay them $5,000. But you should also not just go to your friend who recently purchased a tattoo gun and will do yours for $20, unless it's the kind of tattoo that you want to get. Look online. Instagram is a great place to look. Find an artist who specializes in the style you want, has been in business for a while, and you like the look of the work that they do. Reach out, set up a time for a consultation, and you're ready to move on to stage 4. Stage 4 is when you're properly committed now. You have the design, the artist, and a day and time for your appointment picked out. For the appointment itself, just remember to be hydrated the day of, eat something beforehand to keep your blood sugar up, don't want you to be fainting during your session, and of course don't be under the influence of drugs or alcohol while you're there. Keep in mind, depending on what you're getting, you'll likely be sitting there for hours, so bring something to keep you entertained. a book, your phone, anything you can use to keep yourself entertained for a long period of time. Also remember to bring extra cash afterwards to tip them. Once you have the tattoo, aftercare is super important, but the artist will go over that with you. And now that you have one, it's a great time to remember that the only way to get it off of you is a series of very expensive sessions of being shot with a laser, which my sister has told me, and I quote, hurts more than when she gave birth. Yet despite knowing that, you'll want more in the future. Everyone that gets one always does. But that's about it. Thanks for watching.